roll back the clock to 2000, the private debt industry was about 40 billion. I think for 2020, the expectation is that private debt will exceed 1 trillion. We expect continued growth. I mean, that's 20-fold growth over 20 years. And we expect to see continued growth in the asset class, really driven by the continued exit of banks from direct lending and the growth of private debt funds and the increased interest by institutional investors in the private debt asset class, really particularly driven by a global search for yield in an environment where euro rates continue to be negative and US rates continue to drive lower. I think we're seeing a real coming of age moment in private debt. I think initially a number of investors felt that the asset class was attractive, in particular for senior lending. I think there was a broad group of managers who were entrusted with limited partners capital. We're starting to see real differences in performance, and I think the key issue is manager selection around the private debt asset class. I think it's important to invest in teams who have a long track record, who are cycle tested, who have been able to navigate through workouts and restructurings over their history, as Park Square has. So I would focus people's attention on what we would describe, euphemistically as beer drinking Europe, and I would include the French in that as well. So the UK, France, Benelux, Germany, and Scandinavia. I think that constellation of geographies is the place to watch. That is where there's excellent rule of law, good alignment of interests between private equity firms, advisors, management teams, and lenders, and where I expect most of the action to be over the coming period. So I think what to me is so interesting about Berlin is the rich history that really permeates the town, the separation between East and West, and the way East Berlin, obviously post the Berlin Wall, developed differently. And I think the history around that to me is fascinating. And interestingly, I think the architecture of East Berlin is really particularly interesting.